Hello and welcome to Astro Hi-Fi. My name is Gabby Turner, and I just wanted to do a quick little rundown of Tucker Carlson's astrological transits and how those might relate to him losing his job, because apparently that's the news today. He and Fox News have separated from each other. It sounds like it was likely that he got fired. At first, I kind of assumed maybe he chose it, but it seems that he got fired. But I thought it would be interesting to look at his chart and see what transits he's having right now. This chart here is from astrotheme.com, and it was rated as an AA chart, which means the birth time here is reliable. So let's look at what's going on. What transits is he having that could have to do with him losing his job? So first of all, as probably most of you know who are watching this, the 10th house is the house of career and profession. So that would be where you would look first to see what's going on. He does have some natal placements here. His Venus in Aries is in his 10th house, actually pretty close to his midheaven. And Saturn is in Taurus in his 10th house if you're using Placidus house system. So the first thing is that the North Node has been transiting through Taurus, and it goes through the zodiac backwards. So it was in Gemini, and then it moved into Taurus. It's already crossed his sun and moon here, so that could have had something to do with leading up to that. We'll get to more of the sun and moon in a moment, but then it, the North Node over the past year has crossed into his 10th house and is currently sitting at about 4 degrees of Taurus, and his natal Saturn is at 2 degrees. So this I could definitely see as a transit that could bring this type of experience, because the North Node wants to challenge us so that we can improve ourselves and push further into our life's purpose. And he's having the North Node transiting his 10th house. He's meant to be going further with his career right now as an aspect of his life purpose. So just because he got fired doesn't mean like he's not supposed to be, having a career anymore. The North Node here is just saying we're bringing you challenges. And then of course Saturn in and of itself is a very challenging planet that wants us to grow up and to be mature and responsible. And how do we do that? We learn that life is tough sometimes. Life isn't always fair, and there's a lot of hardship in life, and we kind of just have to grow up and toughen up. That's what Saturn wants us to do. And the North Node just wants us to fulfill our purpose in life. So that's one thing that I see here. The other thing major that happened just right before his firing was that there was a solar eclipse in Aries. Happened at the late degrees of Aries. And there were a lot of planets in that solar eclipse. Jupiter, let's see, we had the Sun, Moon, Jupiter, Chiron, Eris. What else? I feel like there was something else there, but there was a lot going on in that eclipse. And then of course there was the North Node itself, which is what makes it an eclipse. So having a solar eclipse like that, and it was a troubling one because that eclipse was also square to Pluto, which is something else I'm going to mention, because Pluto is going through his 7th house, separating from a conjunction to his descendant here. And when that happens, when Pluto is transiting the 7th, it can trigger endings to partnerships of any kind. And so even in his personal life, it doesn't necessarily mean, if you have Pluto transiting the 7th, it doesn't mean if you're in a relationship that's going to end. But it does mean that any relationship, any one-on-one partnership you have is going to go through a process of transformation that could deepen the relationship and bring you closer together and make a stronger, tighter bond, or it could just bring an end and say, like, it's time for this to be over. We need to release this. So definitely the relationship between Tucker and Fox News has been severed, And so we can see that Pluto transit as contributing there. So those are the three major transits that I really see contributing here. But I also wanted to talk about an upcoming transit that I think will kind of further the story here. There's more to the story. And that is Uranus, which is going to be hitting his Sun-Moon conjunction at the end of Taurus. And that'll be happening. I mean, it's already there. It's already applying to this conjunction. But as it continues to get closer over the following year, that energy is going to intensify. And what Uranus does is it destabilizes things in our life. It ruffles our feathers. And this is going to be happening to his two most important personal planets, the Sun and the Moon. And it's happening in his 11th house. Now, the 11th house is also connected to our career in a way because it has to do with our professional networks, the way that our colleagues. It also has to do with our personal networks, as in our social networks, people who we're connected to socially. But I feel what I expect here is that there's something more that's going to come out here related to, maybe that's something that's surprising, unexpected, shocking, or just destabilizing, related to other people in media that he is colleagues with. I mean, obviously, some of the news that's come out lately anyway has to do not just with him, but with other people at Fox News because of the Dominion voting thing. So anyway, you get the idea. So I think there will be more to the story here. And let's see. And I think, yeah, like I said, we'll be finding out more about his colleagues. There will be more things happening there. Shocking things. Okay. And also said normally a Sun-Moon conjunction in the 11th would indicate someone who's well liked by their colleagues. I think that Tucker is well liked by his colleagues at Fox News. It seems like he is. You know, it seems like he gets a lot of respect there. But let me see. But also I said Uranus transiting here could certainly bring some unexpected turn of events regarding his professional and social networks. So yeah, I already said that. And then what I also think is interesting is that right after Uranus, passes over his Sun and Moon, his Moon's at the 29th degree of Taurus. It's right there at the tip-off into Gemini. Uranus will move into Gemini in 2025. And I feel like what's happening with Tucker now could actually be something that is connected to a larger, maybe like restructuring of journalism, some sort of upheaval to journalism as a whole, because Gemini is the sign that's associated with media, newspapers, journalism, television, radio, all of those types of things. And eventually it'll be transiting his Mercury too, and Mercury, of course, is the ruler of Gemini. So yeah, I think it will just be interesting to see how this further plays out. So anyway, I don't know. I just love astrology, and when like something huge happens in someone's life, you should be able, if astrology is real, you should be able to, look at their chart, see what their transits and or progressions are, and understand why this is happening. And it definitely makes sense when you look at his chart. Other things that I just think maybe are interesting about him. He has Pluto conjunct Jupiter and conjunct Uranus. So that's a pile up here in his third house in Virgo. Again, that makes sense because these are also both Mercury. Virgo is a Mercury ruled sign, and the third house is this Gemini, mercurial house. So it makes sense that he went into the profession that he did. I think a lot of times Jupiter and Pluto together can really bring a lot of money to a person. I don't know, I'm just saying that. But it can also bring a lot of exposure and also a lot of power. And that power and exposure would come through a sort of rebelliousness or especially because with his Uranus, it's at 0 degrees of Libra. So Uranus is very rebellious. Libra usually wants to get along with people and be reasonable and understanding and polite. But also Uranus is like, we're going to have different perspectives on this when it's in Libra. And I respect your, right to have a different perspective, but I'm not going to just try to have the same belief as you just to get along. Uranus is very rebellious. It isn't going to just agree with everything. So I would say that's like just part of his verve in this life, so to speak. It's also interesting to see that he has Venus conjunct his midheaven. I would think that someone who makes a living like he does would have something more like Mercury conjunct the midheaven, because that would have to do more with speaking, communication, delivering information. But here he has Venus in Aries. Venus in Aries is interesting as well, because I think I get a similar vibe here to what this Uranus was telling us. Like Venus, like Libra, of course, the sign that it rules, wants to play nice and be reasonable. It's like, okay, I'm going to try to understand where you're coming from so that I can make sure that I'm coming from the correct place. That's what Venus likes to do and what Libra likes to do. Venus doesn't normally like to pick fights or have conflict, but his Venus is in the sign of Aries. And that just means that, although he wants to be agreeable, he's also not going to sacrifice his own selfhood here, or, kind of be a doormat. It's like, I'll be polite, but I won't be a doormat. That's the energy that is conjoining his midheaven. Not something like Mercury. So that is interesting. So his career is based around, I want to be reasonable, but I also am not going to sacrifice my selfhood. So I don't know. Maybe that will play out. I mean, his midheaven, it got punched hard, and his 10th house got punched very hard by this recent solar eclipse. Yeah. So we'll see what happens. In any case, I hope that you enjoyed watching this. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.